Sanjay Gandhi was virtually the dictator, but Sanjay Gandhi was the man who was running the country during that time. Next to me, there's a young boy of hardly 14 or 15-year-old, and he's being beaten up. This lady, whom I subsequently got to know is Ambika Soni, she had got hold of that boy by the wrist, and the other two were raining blows on him. I got angry. I said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you beating him up? Quit India movement was also bogus. I should put incident here and there. The British gave us freedom after the Second War. Media that time, barring Indian Express. In any case, media at that time also was blind. There is a term which some people claim that the authorship of Godi media. Our media has always been Godi media. Real Godi media was then. There is no Godi media now. You open YouTube and you see what is happening. You want to see anti-Modi? You can see any number of channels on YouTube which are anti-Modi. Even regular channels are anti-Modi.
On June 25th, emergency was imposed in India. Emergency was a 21-month-long period from June 1975 to March 1977 when emergency powers were applied across India and civil liberties were curtailed. Today, if we are to ask the youth about emergency, they will especially refer to it as a chapter that they must have read in history books. But a lot happened during that time. Many were jailed, including journalists, politicians, social activists. Well, we have with us senior journalist Virendra Kapoor, who was jailed during that period. Sir, welcome to ThePrint.
Thank you.
To begin with, sir, how did you land up in jail during that particular time? Was it sudden? Were you aware that something like this was going to happen? If you could tell us the entire story.
That I'll tell you, but I think, let me correct you on your preface.
Yes.
Today's generation is not taught anything in the history books about the emergency. I don't think anybody in the university is told what emergency is all about or whether it was imposed or not. I mean, there are great effort has been made to suppress the fact that for 19 months or 21 months, as you say, the civil liberties were snatched. And there was overpowering pile of fear in the country. Nobody is told, especially the Congress regime, successive Congress regimes have suppressed the fact. They might be sorry or ashamed of it inside them, but officially they don't say this. So I don't think the today's generation knows what emergency is all about. So as far as I am concerned, somehow I got involved very deeply, and even otherwise, although in this case my brother-in-law is Charan Swami, so he was senior leader in the Jansangh at that time, right-hand man of Nanaji Deshmukh, the organizing secretary of Jansangh. But that further drew me into this anti-emergency struggle. But even without that, I felt strongly about things. And I think I generally tended to be anti-Congress. I mean, at my age, if I wasn't anti-Congress, I'll be ashamed of myself, especially the kind of things Indira Gandhi was doing before the emergency. To start the story about me and the emergency, I think we were living in Betrolai Patel House, that is Charan Swami's house on Rafi Mark Constitutional Club, and because he had shifted to Greater Clash where we were living earlier, and my wife was with Indian Express at that time, Virendra Kapoor. When her sister woke her up around 8:39 or maybe earlier, saying, you know what's happened? So-and-so has been picked up, Malkani has been picked up, GP has been arrested, Morarji Desai has been arrested. But, I mean, she gave a name of top leaders who had been arrested, and that Swami is coming to my house. Swami left his house and came to Bithala Patel House, fearing arrest. At that time, nothing was official. They began arresting people even without the formal declaration of emergency. The famously Indian Express cartoon where Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed is sitting there in a bathtub and saying any more ordinance to sign or bring them after I have finished my bath or something. Abu's cartoon. Because this was emergency decision was taken without the prior approval of the cabinet. So next to my house was UNI, United News of India, now virtually defunct. So I walked across to UNI to see what's happening on the ticker. There's no internet and there's only Doordarshan, that too for limited hours of telecast. And UNI ticker was still buzzing, and I saw, and it had only this from Ahmedabad, Morarji Desai, or some other Desai, or some from this pocket of the country, this so and so leader. So leaders were being picked up. Important leaders were being arrested. So I stuck around there for a while, maybe an hour, came back home. I had a Vespa scooter those days, but around 10 o'clock went to United Coffee House. That was the hub of Delhi political scene also, social scene, and we used to go there regularly as young reporters. We'll meet there. We had plenty of time those days on our hands. In the evening, we'll go and write our copy. Before that, you went to the office around 12:31, and then you came out, met people on the beat, and then you had coffee and met people from various sections of the society. And people are coming in. And here were people from BJP, no, Jan Sangh, now BJP, but Jan Sangh, Congress. And they sensed something happening in the country. And the police were there in large numbers in Connaught Place. Sanjay Gandhi closed down that coffee house later in the emergency. So I was in that coffee house when a reporter from Motherland, the paper I had started with, the Motherland was a newspaper, daily newspaper started by the RSS Jan Sangh, and K.R. Malkani was the founding editor. And he said, Malkani ji ko to raat ko arrest kar liya hai. I said, chal aisa karte hain Manor. I was in Financial Express. Kumi was in Indian Express. I said, Manor was a confidant of Malkani. He was working with him earlier in Organizer, then shifted to the Motherland as a reporter. I said, let's go to the Motherland office and see what's happening. Because the newspapers had not come that morning. He said, अखबार तो आया नहीं, तू बिजली काट दी. So I left my scooter on outside the coffee house, got onto Manohar's scooter, went to Rani Jhansi Road where the Motherland office was, Motherland Organizer. Fortunately, they restored the electricity. And there also the ticker was running because so it got into my head, चल यार अखबार निकालते हैं. So I told him, those days hot metal composing, and I sat on the typewriter. I say, यार तू ऐसा कर, ये जो अहमदाबाद से सारी कॉपी जो आ रही है, अरेस्ट की आ रही है, essentially copy JP arrested today and this man, पटना ये वो, ऐसी इसको इकट्ठा कर दे. All that you have to do is put it together. And I, in my anger and in my anger, I sat down on I still, after 50 years, somebody sent me the copy of that paper. I can give it to you. I had lost it. And I still remember writing the first intro. I don't know how it occurred to me. In the copybook fashion of all dictators, Mrs. Gandhi first started by clamping down on the press, pre-media, this and that. So I typed out, virtually editorializing against the regime, against emergency. Headline, I gave the headline a wave of anger and anger and one other word I now slips my mind, sweeps the capital. Otherwise, the page one was nothing but the arrests of leaders and their photographs, mugshots. And the rest of the paper was already made up, which was not allowed to become printed. So the rest of the paper was that. But we brought out about 6 or 8 sheet paper. And the press superintendent just walked in I still remember the guy, chain smoker and Malik. कहते Malik साहब अखबार निकालते हैं. जैसे निकाल रहे हो, प्रेस तो चल पड़ी है. So we brought out the paper. I took 20-30 paper copies and I told Manohar to मुझे कॉफी हाउस वापस छोड़ दे because my scooter lying there. I still remember that Manohar sensed something that we had done wrong. I sensed nothing. Manohar was aware कि गलत काम किया है. He won't even catch the paper, the papers that we brought out. I said, छोड़ दो यार मुझे. Give me this paper. I'll hold them. So went to coffee house and the people out there were very eagerly waiting to Virendra. So I gave them the papers. I saved a couple of them. Took it to Indian Express those days and everybody was like happy to get the copy. Later on, within weeks, I learned from my friends. I don't forget, like every other journalist who starts in a newspaper, the lowest beat is the crime beat. And those days, Delhi was not so big. There were only 4 districts. So the crime beat in Delhi was divided into 2, Old Delhi and New Delhi. So I was on New Delhi. New Delhi meant that either you have New Delhi district and South Delhi district. And so I was in New Delhi, although I left motherland, but I knew the guys who would work there. So I gave the paper. Days later, I said, they are wanting to know, because there was nothing else in the newspaper, because the rest was you and I copy, so-and-so arrested, so-and-so arrested. कि ये किसने लिखा है? ये किसने लिखा है? A wave of shock and anger sweeps the capital.
That headline.
Yeah, headline. Now it comes to me. And what got cut, I still remember, I can't forgive myself, because it got cut on the stone. I said, like all copybook dictators, she too will meet the fate of those dictators. They're dismounting the this thing, the lion, and that got cut on the stone.
But that was a headline that sort of became the
Yeah,
reason.
they were just wanting, because that is the only in-house production. And they could not link it to me because I was not working there. Poor D.N. Singh, who is a former Indian Express hand, who after retirement joined as number 2 since Malkani had been arrested, said they pinned the blame on D.N. Singh. And D.N. Singh is surprised, हम तो वहाँ थे ही नहीं, ठाकुर साहब तो थे नहीं वहाँ पे, हमारे के ऊपर उनके खिलाफ in his own network of cops. He got to know there was an arrest warrant issued against him for that paper. But he also know कि वीरेंद्र आया था, वीरेंद्र ने ये किया है. वो वीरेंद्र भाग रहा है, he is not bothered at all. And the fact is that I knew no fear at all till sometime after that, Surana Swami came and did his act, that is preparing act of Rajya Sabha. Then I only knew fear, nothing else. Because at that time I couldn't conceive. I said, मेरा क्या होगा यार, मेरा क्या है? So Manohar also, they didn't relate it to Manohar. And after that, I got involved in, Swami had needs to be taken to Nanaji Deshmukh. Nanaji Deshmukh had gone underground. Before that, I had no interaction with Nanaji Deshmukh, although you used to stay on the top floor of this Motherland building, Bharat Prakashan building on Rani Jhansi Road. Once in a while you saw him because he came down to meet K.R. Malkani, the editor. Otherwise you didn't have. Whereas Swami was very close to him.
So where exactly were you picked up from and after how many days of publishing that
Yeah,
piece?
that's what I'm coming to.
Yeah.
So what was I doing apart from my financial expense? And they had this underground, they used to bring every 10 days or 5 days, what they called, in Hindi they used to bring it Bani or some I forget the name now. It was underground. Those days there used to be duplicators. I still remember the company was Shuri Duplicators, where you cyclostyled. You may not be familiar with these things because the ancient technology. You cyclostyle, you cut out a stencil, and then you printed it.
Right.
So you see, the Indira Gandhi proscribed the issue, post-emergency first issue of Time and Newsweek magazine. Time magazine had Indira Gandhi, the Iron Fist, and I forget the cover, similar cover on the Newsweek. But because they were banned, some of my friends managed to get hold of these copies. And Bithala Tail House, ground floor was the Jansang office, corner office next to looking towards UNI was the Jansang office, national. There was no Ashoka Road those days. There was no 11 Ashoka Road. So I said, अरे भाई, there was the office clerk. अरे तुम्हारा ऑफिस तो सील हो जाएगा, which was sealed, party office. तो इसे क्यों नहीं करता कि ये इसको मशीन को, साइक्लो स्टाइल वाली मशीन को, इसको मेरे घर में ऊपर लगा दे. So we had that thing transferred to my house in Bithala Tail House. So I made him cut stencil of the cover story of Newsweek and Time, and we made about 200 copies each.
Okay.
And I went around, your fellow journalists, I gave it to you. And I went to Indian Express and wanted to give it to Ajit Bhattacharya. He was a senior editor who was JP, who was Everyman and all, he was the editor. I mean, there are little nuggets that you read meaning into. What happened was Ajit refused to take. But there was a reporter in Indian Express who not only took 5-10 copies that day, but 3 days later he came back to ask for more. So I told this to a friend of mine, a cop who was sympathetic, very sympathetic, anti Mrs. Gandhi, but still serving cop, senior. He says, वो तुमसे पूछ रहा है कि तुम्हारा सोर्स है, रेगुलर सोर्स है सप्लाई का, तुमने अच्छा किया उसको नहीं दिया. So Indian Express had somebody else in the marketing. I don't blame them because the setup was so small. There were only one newspaper which was standing up. So they had already got their informers even in Express. So I didn't give it to him. And I was told, be careful. I said, who the hell is bothered here? Whatever they want to do, they can do. I haven't done any crime. So I would, on my scooter, Nanaji Deshmukh, I couldn't recognize the man. He looked like he had changed, he had dyed his hair. He used to always wear dhoti kurta, thick glasses. Now the man was wearing a safari suit, sandals. He looked like a tobacco salesman from Good Tour. Nobody could recognize, even those who get, this is Nanaji Deshmukh. So I'll get him on my scooter and take him there, And Swami, of course. And they were supposed to be underground. And the parliament was maybe about half a mile away, not less than half a mile away from Bithala Tail House. And Parliament Street was, the Parliament Police Station, main station, was only 2 furlong away. After about 2-3 weeks, the fervor of the authorities, the cops, had come down. The fervor to enforce the emergency. Because they realized kuch hua to nahi hai. So the pile of MISA warrants and DIR warrants that they had issued, lots of them were not serviced at all. Because not much resistance was offered. Even in the initial days, apart from the initial arrests of top leaders and their activists, main activists, nothing happened in the country, even in the initial week. So they said, why waste time and money taking them to jail and putting them there? The country had settled into what you call a very placid, sullen, normalcy. Nobody is bothered. Chal raha hai to. It's not that any people are throwing stones or, protesting on the road. Nothing of the sort. People might be talking hush hush. Maybe in the coffee houses they were not discussing politics. They were careful to watch over their shoulder. But otherwise, emergency meant nothing for ordinary people.
So if I could just bring you back to the fact that, you were imprisoned for 10 months, right?
No, that's the incident leading up to my prison. Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to sort of focus a bit about that also. When exactly were you arrested, and, what was it like being jailed? Did you forge any friendships? What exactly used to happen
Of
there?
course, everybody knows that.
Yes.
Forged lots of friendship. You see, it's like this, that I would get the news, underground news. In this particular case,
Which jail were you in, if you could tell to our viewers?
in this particular case, the Commonwealth parliamentary delegation was in India, was in Delhi. It was the norm for a civic reception to be held in their honor. Since they had suspended or superseded the Johnson headed corporation, H.K.L. Bhagat, the strongman of Delhi Congress, was presiding over the ceremonies in Diwan Khas, Red Fort. Since I knew that this is going to happen, that the Johnson RSS have planned protests there, during that felicitation for the delegates, foreign delegates, Commonwealth delegates essentially. So I had told lots of foreign friends. I still remember ABC, but that is Australian Broadcasting Corporation
Yes.
representative here, Jeff, a fellow called Jeff Hughes. He and a couple of others, I phoned them up. And they made it a point to go to for that function. And of course, the other journalists were there, Hindustan Times of India, to cover that function. I was also there, and I knew that there going to be some protest. So in the audience, these 15, 20 boys, young boys, the youngest was about 14 years old, and the oldest was about 19, 20 years old. These RSS had sent them. They sat in different corners. So, they mixed with the audience. After the end of the function, when Jan Gan Man is sung, and when they're dispersing from different corners of the audience, this slogan came: up, up with democracy, down, down with dictatorship. Nothing more, nothing less. The cops also were there in civils and all. They knew that something is going to happen. So they pounced on them.
Okay.
Whoever was shouting, and they were shouting nothing else other than this. You can make out there's nothing objectionable, up, up with democracy, and down, down with dictatorship.
So they were taking...
There were also some youth Congress thugs also. And there was some very self-important woman called Ambika Soni, whom I didn't know at that time. I didn't recognize her. So what happens next to me, there's a young boy of hardly 14 or 15 year old, and he's being beaten up. This lady, whom I subsequently got to know is Ambika Soni, she had got hold of that boy by the wrist, and the other two were raining blows on him. So I got angry. I said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you beating him up? She says, who are you? This dialogue is actual, this is the only dialogue. I said, who are you? I said, I'm as much a citizen of this country as you are. Why are you beating him up? If he has done anything wrong, let the cops do something. The policemen are here in large numbers. You have no right to beat up this boy. And in any case, what has he done?
Right.
She says, now you're defending him. I said, I'm not defending him. I'm defending everybody's right. Has he done anything wrong? And in any case, you can't beat him up. Next thing I say, the cops get hold of me. They also drag me. And they are those small little batons. And they always hit you on the thighs at the back. Soft flesh. So in a medical test,
Examination.
it doesn't come out. So from here to the end of the road, they had parked their jail vans. Where everybody lined up. Whoever was arrested. And I said, okay. So I was also lined up with 8, 10, 15 boys. Some of them escaped, which I subsequently got to know in jail. To be fair to Ambika Soni, I didn't know that time And there was a DSP called Ramurthy Sharma. Those days there was no commissioner system. Ramurthy Sharma came, and this is a reporter's benefit, having worked as a crime reporter. वो किधर नाल पंगा लेता है? वो तो जानदा नहीं, मैनू की लेना देना है? भाई वो गलत काम कीता है. This was how Ramurthy was afraid that I'm still talking, very bravely, couldn't care less. To be fair to her, when the other journalists saw me being dragged, Najmul Hassan of the Hindustan Times picked up the courage, went up to her. He said, "आप क्या कर रही हैं?" He said, "One of us, she's our reporter." And she said, पर मैं उससे पूछा कि who are you? वो कहता है मैं citizen. So, in order to make amends and make sure I am released, she came up to me when others are also lined up. She said, "Don't you think that instead of helping me arrest those boys, you were helping them?" I said, "I still maintain you had no business to beat up this boy. He had done no wrong." Now she had come to make amends and get me out. Then she said, "You go in." I said, "Of course I'll go in. If I have to go in for defending this boy because he had done no wrong, then that's how it went." So they all took us to Kotwali police station and shoved us all into that. They have a little room. All police stations have,
Yes.
whatever you call it. And shivering cold, those, they can't, the doors can't be shut. And 15, 16 of us in a little barrack, and one or two other criminals were there that night. The little cubby hole has all for toilet and doing your business. And a stinking blanket, tattered. So 15 of us spent the night there. In Kotwali, what is the term for they have used for that particular room? Anyway, all police stations have big spaces. So, but my fear was different. These boys might be afraid that they've been picked up. My fear was I had left my scooter there in Diwaniyam, and it had lot of this underground Mukti Vani. That is the underground literature. They used to bring out Charan Singh and others. But say so and so arrested, Aaj hua, what hua. That I say, if they pick up my scooter and then they search the dicky, you'll find this. And then I heard it because then they'll ask, kahan se milta hai? It's a chain.
Right.
So, fortunately for me, because there are other journalists, they were very quick to inform Kumi and others, my wife and others. So they
Picked up the stuff.
So they came to the police station. I said, "Look, these are the keys, my scooter. Get this scooter out." By that time, the cops had not sensed, "Okay, I'll have this." Anyway, my scooter was not taken. So I felt relieved.
Right.
I felt relieved. I didn't get anybody into trouble because of me.
But who all were there with you in jail?
No. That is when I land there in jail. So the next morning, the producer, Tisri Jari, they sent us to Tihar jail under Defense of India rules. And I think I was there in the DIR for about 2-3 weeks. Those 2-3 weeks I saw, because that was the different ward number 14. And those are the DIR detainees. There's Charan Singh, Prakash Singh Badal, Atma Singh Umrangal. Umrangal went on to become the revenue minister in Punjab. Badal went on to become chief minister, and Charan Singh, what happened. He went on to become the home minister and all. So I would see them. Now you have to while away your time in jail. You have got plenty of time. So they'll all sit down. Charan Singh, Badal, Umrangal, and one more. I think Captain Baljit or somebody, who was a member of Lokdal, or he was in jail. And they'll spend their time playing sweep. Charan Singh was very, very fond of playing sweep. So they'll sit flat on the floor, they'll play sweep, But we'll go around and see what's happening. And the Mashaktis are the convicts, the criminals, whether pickpockets or murderers who've been given assigned to the political wards to help them clean and swap and cook and things like this, to run errands. So I still remember, like a feudal king, a feudal lord, Badal had what you call canisters, the old-fashioned ghee tins. After you've taken the ghee out, so you put a tin cup or lid on this with a little latch. So 1 tin of biscuits, homemade biscuits, 1 tin of sugar, 1 tin of tea. So endless cups of tea and biscuits will be served and they play sweep. And Charan Singh had only 2 books in his room. One is Genghis Khan and another was Hitler. And he would very often say, Kapoor, dekh le, isko dekh le, isi mein rakhunga isko Indira Gandhi ko, isi mein rakhunga Indira Gandhi ko. And ठीक है चौधरी साहब. But after about 3 weeks, we were paroled out. Again, I started going to my embassy restaurant for morning coffee. There were some journalists and others who would sit and gossip. They'll expect me to behave, and they found that I still behave the same normal way, couldn't care less.
And then you were picked up again?
Yeah, what happened was that after about 2-3 weeks, when we were picked up first time, they had taken away my watch, my pen, and a couple of other things, small things. Essentially, my younger brother had given me a watch, which those days was expensive, 870 or something rupees, which he gave me. Seiko watch, he had got it from somewhere. So I went to Tisijari because you had to get this release on Superdari.
Right.
It's a term called Superdari. And when I went there, the reader of the magistrate, he pointed out to the cops in standing there, ki aa gaya. And when I came out from the room, he got hold of me because the MISA warrant was waiting for me.
Okay.
Why I say this, that they were not eager to enforce MISA or DIR because then nothing was happening. And in this case, the MISA warrant was issued much earlier. Everybody knew I live in Bithola Jail House. They don't want to serve it. Not because they were doing me a favor, but they said there's no need to. कुछ हुआ तो है नहीं, तो काहे को अंदर लोगों को अंदर करना? Anyway, so this is also another facet of emergency. My lawyer was a congressman, hardcore congressman called Balveer Sharabat, who later on gave bail for Indira Gandhi in Janata regime. So Sharabat had a scooter. Sharabat told the court कि भाई इनको तुमको मिस के ले जाना है, ले जाओ, इनके घर से कपड़े वपड़े तो लेने दो. He said, हाँ जनाब. So Sharabat brought me to Bithola Jail House. I picked up my clothes, and that's how I went to Misa Tihar. And that's how the Tihar chapter starts.
So what all happened there? We hear that you got in touch with Arun Jaitley there.
No, I didn't get in touch with you. Arun was already there.
Okay.
Malkani was already there. Madhulal Khurana ji was there. I think Chartilal Goel, who went on to become the Speaker of Delhi Assembly, Vijay Goel's father. They were already there. There was this ward which had about 14 people, 14 of us. The Delhi University Duta chairman those days, O.P. Kohli, the late O.P. Kohli now, who went on to become the governor of Gujarat. He was there, very nice fellow, in the same mold as Advani ji. Then Professor Ramnath Bhatt, respected local Jan Sangh leader who used to be a lecturer in Hansraj College. So,
so all these people were there.
Yeah, Jaitley was there, and some others. We were all there, and we had plenty of time on our hands. We used to play badminton, volleyball there. Morning Gapmaro, because there were no newspapers coming. And it was a trouble essentially for those outside. Trouble was for my wife, she had, my elder daughter was born 3 weeks after the emergency. So she would come every Friday because those who were arrested in South Delhi, New Delhi, they had their weekly meeting on Fridays. So we all had our weekly meeting on Fridays. So we'll all go to the Diodi. Diodi is the center of they are where you have the meetings. Prisoners have the meeting. And meetings you look forward to every Friday or whatever day is assigned. In this case, our Friday, for the simple reason that your wife will bring, but two people are allowed. So essentially, three times out of four, my wife and her sister, Swami's wife, will come and bring my quota of week cigarettes, Wells filter Navy cut cigarettes, otherwise they're not available in jail. And food. So we'll all share our food. JP had his own family members coming. So you got to know everybody there. So it was, in fact, very harsh on the outside rather than us people. There were some miserable people in jail. I mean, there was one senior.
There was a dacoit also.
Huh?
There was
that is he was in another ward.
Okay.
That's another story.
Daku, right?
That's the story you want to know. Okay. So he was in another ward. But you see what happened, the jails are not meant for political prisoners. The strength of Tihar jail, it's called central jail at that time, it's still a central jail, but was meant to be about 1,450 odd people. Because of the emergency, the population in the jail had gone 4,000 plus, 4,000 plus. So all the criminals were living in what is called the wood factory. It's the huge workshop type where some people will work on chairs and tables and they assign some. This is part of their rigorous imprisonment. That famous doctor N.S. Jain was there who had arranged to kill his wife, Dr. Jain, in order to marry his mistress Chandresh Sharma. He was there, but because he was educated, he was a top eye doctor living in Def Call. He was assigned library duties. So two Rajmatas were there in the women's ward. Now two Rajmatas had to share the ward because there was only one women's ward with the women from the red light area who will use foul language or not you. So whereas Jaipur lady will turn her head away, nose away, and acting gutter language. Whereas Rajmata Gwalior beta trying to be very, persuasive. ये ऐसे नहीं बोलते हैं, ऐसे बोलते हैं. She took it on the chin and she acted gracefully. But Rajmata Jaipur, she wilted. And since all the criminals were now male criminals were in the factory essentially. So Sundar Daku, as he was popularly known, he was a Gujar, and he had his following, like a Robin Hood following in Western UP essentially. They will work during the day, and in the night they were quietly digging the tunnel. And how were they digging the tunnel? Because you see the plywood sheets are quite big. So the pile of plywood sheets are kept in the factory. They have to be kept in the factory. Under the plywood sheets, they'll go and dig the tunnel. So 5-6 of them, including Sundar led by Sundar, they escaped on the eve of Holi when we were there. And then by word of mouth we got to know there's a break-in and these fellows escaped. So when the jail administration is called to account, what the hell happened? The break. So their explanation was very simple. He said, what do we do? You have 4,600 odd people here. It's meant for only 1,400. So that's one of the reasons we had to keep them there in the factory. So as a matter of policy, they said, now we'll reduce the population of Tihar jail by 20%, 30%. So they picked on people, political prisoners, transferred them here, there, everywhere. Jaitley and few others were transferred to Ambala. I, along with 4 others, were transferred to Bareilly jail.
Right. But when you were there in Tihar, I mean, if you could just explain how a typical day was like, what you used to do, what time you used to get up, as you explained, how you used to get food and everything. What you used to do to sort of, spend your time there? Or were there any moments of rebellion? It was all very routine? What was it like?
By the time you had come to a, some of us couldn't care less. I mean, you got up, you had your tea in a glass. That also the RSS Jansang people had adopted a way to organize things inside jail. You see, Mushaktis are called those hard laborers. The convicts were assigned to the various wards to help the political prisoners, cook for them, clean their thing, do the bathroom and things like this. So the Mushaktis looked forward to be assigned to the political ward because at least they'll serve half decent food. In their own words, this is very important. This can be changed. In fact, nobody writes about these things. We looked up in those days a jail manual, British era jail manual, which specifies most nutritious food for every inmate. If you are a vegetarian, you will get milk and curd so much. If you are non-vegetarian, you will get 2 eggs, you will get this. So it's hair oil, weekly hair oil. It specifies how much atta you will get, how much dal you will get, meaning it will be given to the jail. So, but there was so much of corruption. You talk about Anshashan Parv, so much of corruption inside the jail. These convicts used to get piled of. In fact, you wondered why do they get, let's say, 10, 15 rotis. And then they get in a bucket, the guy will bring dal. I'm talking the convicts, not political prisoners. Dal, if you took a dip in that bucket, you'll not find a grain of dal. You say, aloo ka sabji hai. And you, again, you look around in that bucket, you'll not find aloo. You might be lucky to find a chilka of aloo floating around. Because and as for the rotis, this pile of roti, 1 centimeter diameter, if you found it is cooked, you'll be surprised. Now the reason is, the British era manual provided if you have a number of prisoners, you will give them firewood of, let's say, 10 tons or 20 tons, whatever. But if you are stealing out of that 80% of the firewood, you can only cook so much. This was happening, and with this, in the normal wards. I said normal because that's the place for convicts. But political ward, at least we used to get enough firewood. They had the political detainees had assigned every week. They'll assign, Acha Bidej Kumar Malhotra. Bidej, this week you look after the kitchen. So that morning tea is served on time. Food is well cooked. There is no complaint. 7:30, whatever the time is. So, and then typical RSS training. Every Sunday they'll meet the entire ward and they'll do the postmortem whether the tea was served on time or everybody had a complaint, because there are plenty of time. So this is what you used to sit there and discuss. So, and those convicts who were used to cook for us or clean for us, they were happy. They were getting at least decent food.
Right.
Otherwise, there is nothing. So to get back to Sundar's Daku, we were transferred to Bareilly. Now, in jail parlance, if you are a dacoit or a murder convict in Delhi, even if you are a murder convict, you will be sent to jail in Delhi. It's normal. You are transferred out of your own home jail out of punishment. You see, it's a punishment. This is an old tradition. So we were sent to Bareilly, and Bareilly didn't know what had happened. Those jokers thought we were part of this conspiracy, jailbreaking conspiracy. We were part of Sundar Daku gang. So they put us in solitary confinement with the
legs were shackled.
Yeah. And till 5 days later, the political prisoners in Bareilly, they created a say, हमारे लोगों को वहाँ तुमने क्यों रखा हुआ है?
You were in solitary confinement?
5 days only. Okay. They let you out for what you call half an hour, 40 minutes. And fortunately, my brother came and he bribed some local jailer So I managed to get food from him through the jailer for 4 or 5 days, and I gave it to others, my brother, younger brother, and then we were transferred to the regular ward. But it was 5 days were miserable because we were supposed to be part of the Sundar Dakat gang. And I was there for another 5 months. Meantime, my editor, those days, because the government has seen to it that Bulgaonkar Saab is removed, and B.K. Narasimha Rao, who was the editor of Financial Express, was made the editor of Indian Express. He had sort of let us so at the news editor of Financial Express, C.P. Raghavan, to the Home Minister and others. Why the hell have you arrested Virendra Kapoor? He's our correspondent. Yeah, whoa. Anyway, so I was there in Bareilly, and TSP Raghunath Sharma, if I recall, he came to meet me because they wanted to consider, very sympathetically, given the fact that I was a journalist, Kumi was a journalist, and some journalist was every day speaking. Although Brahmanand Reddy said, "Humko to kuch pata nahi." He, in any case, he was a cipher. Om Mehta was the man who was running the Home Ministry. So he came, met me for 1 hour, asked me. So I told Raghunath Sharma, whom I again knew, old man, as a crime reporter, I said, Pandey, whatever I had done, everybody knows. मुझे कुछ आइडिया नहीं है ये क्या है, ये किया और ये मैं मानता हूँ कि मैंने अंबिका सोनी को बोला और मुझे कोई उसमें कोई वो अफसोस नहीं है उसका. She had no business to beat up those boys. They released me after 10 months. I came home, again resumed my life as usual, doing whatever I could, till Subrahmanyam Swamy came and did this act. Now I was the only man in the extended family on either side. I said they'll focus on me. They can't beat up Kumi, they can't beat up our sister. They can certainly take liberties with me. So after that evening, after my work in Financial Express, I went home. I found Kumi and her sister sitting there. And SHO came from Girtekala police station, a guy called Sondi, and picked me up. He said, थोड़ी देर के लिए आ जाओ. I said, चलो. Put me in his jeep, took me to the police station, and it did nothing. इसे आप बैठो यहाँ पे थोड़ी देर, ऐसे बैठो थोड़ी देर, पंजाबी में. And he closed the room. The room was dark. I kept sitting there for 2.5 hours, from maybe 8:39 to 9 o'clock to 11:30 or so. And Kumi, in many cases, can be quite temperamental. She kept on saying, किधर है? क्यों ले गए हो? क्यों ले गए हो? ए नहीं मैडम हम छोड़ देंगे इधर ही है. I don't know what is going on. At about 12 o'clock, this joker calls me to his room. Sardarji, SHO. And I still remember his etched hair. He takes out a pistol or a revolver from his drawer, puts on the table in front of me, and then he says, "Cha piyoge?" मैं कहा नहीं. अच्छा ये दसो थानू कुछ पता है? I can speak in English if you want. हाँ ये थानू कुछ पता है वो कितने के? ऐसे मैनू की पता है मैं तो.
He was inquiring about Subramanian Swamy.
हाँ मैं क्या मैनू तो जिस तरह सब लोगों को पता चले ऐसे पता चलिए मैनू की पता है. And I said, मैनू दसेगा तो मरेगा नहीं क्योंकि तुसी मैनू मारोगे तो मैं भकांगा. So why would he tell me? He said, नहीं कुछ तो पता होएगा थोड़ा ब्रदर इन लॉ है. वो I said ब्रदर इन लॉ होता है I don't deny पर मैनू नहीं पता ना. And I went in the course of the 6 minutes, 10 minutes, again 4 or 5 phone calls came. Again. And he goes, he said, पर जाओ तुसी. Then he left me. But since then, fear never left me. I'll tell you the reason why.
They were trying to extract information about Mr. Swamy.
The reason is very simple, that I was in Tihar jail. He walks in, a new detenue. Then everybody, all of us are here. Now the new gentleman who will become a part of our group. He said, बोलिए रमेश जी आप कैसे आए? तो रमेश जी से मैं वहाँ रहता था, पुलिस वालों ने मुझे पकड़ा और उन्होंने मुझे मारा, तो मैंने बता दिया वो किधर है. मीनिंग I could not withstand the torture and I blurted out where so and so is living. That dilemma still hasn't left me, although I'm now well past 70 or 75 or whatever. Because it's like this, and I still keep saying this: solve this for me. You leave a treasure for me. Valuable treasure is Virendra, I'm going out, just keep it for 2-3 weeks. I can take that attitude. Well, if it is stolen, I'll tell you stolen. Or I can take that attitude into my moral responsibility to see to it. If it is stolen, I'll make it good. So I said, I don't want to be ashamed. Okay, because I used to see this in jail. Every now and then he knew that new will come. उसने बता दिया, उसको मार पड़ी, मैंने 2 चांटे मारे, उसने बता दिया कि वो कहाँ रहता है, कहाँ अंडरग्राउंड है. So there is something small about that, unmanly. And that dilemma, I can't see people, hardened criminals built under torture. So what am I? And that one, no fear and then fear. That is the phase. but but I still have a larger issue, and that is emergency. If Mrs. Gandhi had continued to persist with the emergency, nothing would have happened. I have a very firm, and people don't like this view, कुछ रेजिस्टेंस नहीं था. ये अरेस्ट कर लिया, 10 लीडर्स को अरेस्ट कर लिया. In a large country like this, what if 30,000 people arrested? And it's not that 30,000 odd were arrested, but they were also being released. And once they were released, they didn't go back. Were there any large-scale disruption? No. Notwithstanding the threat of violent protests by George Fernandez, who was also arrested. But nothing happened. Mrs. Gandhi had no fear after 2-3 weeks. She initially was very fearful that what will be the enormity of her decision to overturn the constitution is so much, she herself feared that there will be a violent uprising. Nothing happened. And once things settled down, she had no fear. It's only that fool called Sanjay Gandhi and Naswandi and the criticism of the foreign press and the foreign Western media and Western leaders, and otherwise she could have persisted the emergency till kingdom come.
But Sanjay Gandhi was seen as the face of the crackdown,
Sanjay Gandhi was virtually the dictator, but Sanjay Gandhi was the man who was running the country during that time. And Sanjay had in Delhi Binder and Bajwa. Binder was not the police commissioner, IGP those days, but he had superseded the IGP virtually, and he was holding the fort. And Bajwa was the CID, SP CID. They were the people who were running the country.
I was talking about Sanjay Gandhi, that he was the face of the crackdown. You also, talked about it. But, his wife, his son, one went on to become the minister. Both of them were the, MPs. Do you see any sense of contradiction in that, considering Sanjay Gandhi was the face of the crackdown?
This only brings back to my point. See, if emergency really meant something to people substantially, that they lost their civic rights, fundamental rights, press was cracked upon, then Mrs. Gandhi shouldn't have come back in 1980. Not only she came back, Sanjay Gandhi came back with all his entire gangs. All the stormtroopers came back. Jagdish Thakur, Sajan Kumar, this and that. And even for the opposition, it meant nothing. What does it say about that anti-emergency opposition that you take back Bansila, B.C. Shukla, and others who now joined the anti-Congress bandwagon? So, in other words, there's no stigma attached to the emergency. There's no moral value or political value attached to being pro-emergency or anti-emergency, because it meant nothing. How B.C. Shukla became one of the fairest critics of Indira Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi. Bansilal was joined the anti-Congress forces. So this traffic to and fro means political harlotry is part of our system.
You know, the media today is accused of being pliant and loud. How would you compare it to the media of 1975? Do you see any difference? Do you see
Word of difference. Media that time, barring Indian Express. In any case, media at that time also is blind. There is a term which some people claim that the authorship of Godi media. Our media has always been Godi media because till till the rise of the opposition, anti-Congress, ism getting some hold at the ground level, there was no hope that any other party other than Congress will come to power. You remember the term jute press. What is the jute press? Jute press supposed to be rooting for Congress. Because at one time, Congress was ruling the roots all over the country, every state, every union territory. So there was nothing but establishment media those days. At least today, you have voices against the establishment.
So you think today's media is more free?
Obviously, if you want, you can see the television channel against Modi. If you want, you can see the print. Not your print, the website, but the print. You can see the print. You can go on the website, you can see television channels who spew venom against Modi. Every evening, YouTube, there are some people have made a career out of abusing Modi, day in and day out. Was it possible during the emergency, before the emergency? I still remember a very gifted cartoonist called Virendra Puri, who came from, who at one time trained also with David Lowe, the best cartoonist that in the till 70s, the London Times and the Guardian had. The Virendra Puri was dismissed eased out of Hindustan Times, even when Bulgaonkar Saab was a strong editor, because he had drawn against a cartoon against Nehru soon after 62 war. Because Virendra became a good friend of mine. I used to admire his guts. Mir Mushtaq Ahmed, who was part of the Delhi Congress, he along with 10 people went outside Hindustan Times building, protested against Puri's cartoon, and within weeks they saw that Puri is out. Puri remained jobless in spite of the fact he was easily the best political cartoonist that India has had those days. And that also includes Lakshman. Lakshman is really very soft and social cartoon. But political cartoons, you can't beat Virendra Puri. The man never had a job. Nobody would give him because he was anti-Congress. So media was totally driven by what you call financial concerns, which were linked with the favors of the ruling regime. Today, the media is far more free than it ever was during all through whether Pandit Nehru or Indira Gandhi. Nehru is the one who First Amendment put shackles on the media.
But even today we see that, citing freedom of expression, journalists keep talking about the fact that, many are put behind bars for saying something or the other. The
mere fact that journalists are talking about behind the bars also shows there is freedom for journalists to talk about it. Not a word was said when Indira Gandhi acted against media or Pandit Nehru's regime acted against the media.
But if you look at many reports, international reports, India is placed, amongst the lowest as far as freedom of press is concerned.
That is their problem. They somehow feel that they can sit on judgment on our media or our country. I mean, can you imagine that they're giving us lesser numbers for human rights and media freedom than Pakistan and Turkey? I mean, they have a prejudice, the lingering prejudice from the time of the British that we are inferior.
So, last two questions that I just wanted to ask. What would shock today's generation the most about, that period? If you could just tell us 2 or 3 things.
I think that today's generation doesn't bother. It doesn't bother.
No, but it doesn't bother, but what would it...
Today's generation is not interested in politics. The media, especially the internet and the social media, gives them such a platform to divert whatever little attention they could pay to what is happening around the world.
But this
So
is a
that-
platform where I'm asking you, what would it be, what would constitute shocking for today's generation if you were to pinpoint that?
for emergency days?
Yes.
Okay, there are any number of cases. As I said, there used to be a very senior leader in jail with us called Jagannath Rao Joshi. And he compared emergency to a rabid dog. Then he explains, he had a great sense of humor. He said, देखो colony में rabid dog जो होता है, whom it will bite next, you don't know. That is the fear of the rabid dog. If in the emergency we knew that only those who are active in protesting or who's a member of BJP or Jan Sangh RS, they'll be arrested, then there won't be any fear. I mean, to reduce it to only simplicity, that if you decide only red people, those who wear red shirts will be arrested. Everybody else will not be arrested. But here you wear red shirt, one day you are arrested, black shirt, next day you will be arrested. Fear of the unknown was the biggest thing with which Mrs. Gandhi, Sanjay Gandhi, controlled the country. And at this point ought to be noted that in spite of the excesses of emergency, she still ended up getting 150 seats. How do you explain that? Are you saying that the people, the so-called more literate people sitting there in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, they don't bother about civic liberties? Merely because they didn't have to go through the hardships of Nasbandi, forcible Nasbandi, they didn't bother about people being arrested in the north. Or the top leaders, including the DMK, incidentally, was also against emergency. Karunanidhi was arrested. But they didn't bother. Otherwise, what she had done to the constitution stood it on its head. She shouldn't have got even one seat, and she gets up 150 seats. So in emergency, immaterial for ordinary people, ordinary voters.
But the opposition said that, we talk about emergency, but today there is an undeclared emergency.
Yeah, they can use any word. There's an undeclared emergency. Whatever the great sayings of the great man called Rahul Gandhi appear in print every day, appear on television every day. It wasn't there in that case. Not even a word could come. I'll tell you a small instance of media freedom. There was a senior Jan Sangh leader called Kanwarlal Gupta. He used to every year mark the birthday of Sardar Patel by, there is a statue of Sardar Patel in Parliament Street. He'll come, garland it, and then expect that people will take note of Sardar Patel's birthday. He'll send out invitations to the press. I know I was a reporter in Motherland, so covered it. In spite of his sending the invitations and next day following it up with a press release and a photograph, not a word will appear in most of the paper. Motherland was the only paper which will take note. There's a significance in many ways. Sardar Patel was a nobody, as was Ambedkar those days. Only when they got marginalized, they discovered there was a man called Sardar Patel. But not one line on Doordarshan, AIR. That is the media for you, those. That is the Godi media. Real Godi media was then. There is no Godi media now. You open YouTube and you see what is happening. You want to see anti-Modi? You can see any number of channels on YouTube which are anti-Modi. Even regular channels are anti-Modi.
But many, accuse the media of self-censorship. As you are pointing out, there are YouTubes, there are other digital channels. But this self-censorship is something that is also criticized heavily by the opposition.
But self-censorship obviously shows that some vested interests might have a stake in not going after this government. It's not because self-censorship not imposed by the government. If it is imposed by the government, prove it. You want to make a point that media, at least today, is far more free than ever it was all through the Congress years. But we have to say this, that the media is clamped down. Today, the emergency, undeclared emergency obtained in the country. Total nonsense. They have no idea about what is the emergency then. When people are picked up from the street. My name is Virendra Kapoor, and next door also there's a Virendra Kapoor. They come up, they had to pick up Virendra Kapoor, but they pick up the next door Virendra Kapoor. That happened. It is actually happened that there was a custom officer they wanted to pick up because Menka Gandhi's mother-in-law, no, Menka Gandhi's mother was an exporter, and she didn't like the way the one custom officer was handling her, the consignment. So they went after that guy, but there's another man with the same name, and they arrested him and put him in jail for several months. This could be possible only in the emergency. Right. Now, and the fact is, have the courts given up their freedom? The courts every day release people on bail. They rebuke the executive every second day, and there the courts were. You can go back and see there's a Home Minister called S.V. Chauhan, who had the cheek temerity to say the opposition should thank itself lucky. We only arrested them. We didn't shoot them dead, because this reference was while hearing a habeas corpus case in Supreme Court, the judge asked him, I think Krishna or whatever, asked him, if you shoot a man, innocent man dead, is there any remedy? So Neelam was the Attorney General. He said, my lord, under the law today, I'm afraid there's no remedy. If you shoot a man dead, innocent man dead, there's no remedy under the law in emergency. So this was emergency law, judiciary for you. And has that situation come to the country today? On the other contrary, every second day they knock out a law passed by the government. Right. But we glibly talk about emergency-like conditions. Emergency-like conditions are there, then the couple of agencies which spew venom against Modi every morning, they'll be closed.
So you were talking about, the political prisoners. One among them was Arun Jaitley. Mm-hmm. Could you share some anecdotes? Did you forge a friendship with him? What was it like? Anything that you could share?
You see, as a reporter with the Motherland, I vaguely knew. Arun said that I didn't recall. Arun said, I know both you and Kumi when you were in Motherland. This is before the emergency. But Arun's articulation was there even in the jail. You could see Arun had the makings of a political leader, because he would summarize any situation. He was very good in Hindi also, and he was very fond of all these senior leaders, and he was a fun person to be with. But since I was not into films, I still remember the only time Arun saying, कपूर साहब एक ही है, हमको थोड़ी देर के लिए छुट्टी मिल जाए. आई थिंक कभी कभी एक फिल्म रिलीज हुई थी, वो सुनते हैं बहुत अच्छी फिल्म है, वो फिल्म देख के आके फिर हम वापस आ जाएंगे. मैं छोड़ यार, तो कौन तो देख. They said we used to play volleyball all the time and have fun, pull pranks on each other. But Arun got along famously with the senior leaders, whereas I could tick them off. I was rather blunt, because somebody, senior leader, now late, but don't want to name him, he'll say, अरे वीरेन जी, आप क्यों यहाँ पड़े हो? हैं, आप तो चले जाओ, अभी तो जवान हो, हमको तो यहीं मरना है. He was so depressed, the whole idea of being in jail. Arun never showed it. And Arun's sisters would come, bring every Friday, and he had obviously because he was the Dusu president, so he lost 1 year. He lost 1 year, but he never showed it. He took it on his chin. But Arun was very glib even in those days, very articulate. And
how long were you?
5 months.
5 months.
Because after Sundar Dakat,
you went to Bareilly.
He went to Ambala. We went there. I think he was there with Pilu Modi on this side, Ambala. I had in the notable, there were many notables, but they were all UP. I think Commander Arjun Singh Badheria, whereas senior Socialist Party leader, whose son Badhoria is now with the BSP or was with the BSP till the other day.
So you were in the same cell as Arun
Yeah,
Jaitley?
same cell. We used to play badminton together. We used to sit there, eat together. Gupshup karte the.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Okay.
Kapoor, for speaking with us. This is Neelam Pandey reporting from The Print.